There are 88 variations of the song. I've never heard that variation.
You were also part of Telltale's Game of Thrones.
I initially was asked to audition a Tyrion Lannister. There was like clips going, is this Neil Newbon? I don't think I've stopped. I was working it out because I work on the weekends a lot of the time with my D&D group Natural Six as well.
Yes.
Like I don't think I have actually stopped really since last July. So we're approaching a year. I haven't really been away. I mean, I've been out the country the last 6 weeks. I went London, Boston, London, Warsaw, London, a city that I can't name because of NDAs, London, LA, London, Warsaw again, now back in London. Like it's been a lot, but it's been great. I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm loving life. I just wish I had a bit more time to look after myself.
You know, the Alters came out. You were part of it, obviously, I think. But it's like what a game, like when the game came out, had such a great reception. A lot of people enjoying it and having a great time. And there's been so much positive reception. Reviews, 9, 10s. How do you feel seeing this positive reaction?
It feels amazing. It feels really, really cool. It feels validating because while we've been working on it, obviously when you're very close to something, you're emotionally close to it, you feel like you're working on something really, really cool. But the analogy I've used a few times is when you're that close to something and you're painting with such fine brushstrokes to make the detail as good as possible, it's often very hard to take a step back and see the whole picture. So to see everyone appreciating what that big picture is has been amazing. I'm delighted for 11-Bit Studios. 11-Bit Studios are a phenomenal group of people. They really care about the craft and the art of video game making. Like they really, truly, genuinely care. Tomek, the game director, said, I think recently in an interview, we don't care about making you a better gamer. We care about making you a better person. The sort of the tagline of the company, you know, meaningful games. And I think that really shines through in this game. I feel as though it's a game that will make people question parts of themselves. It's a game that will make people think. It's a game that will resonate with a lot of people. To see some of the reactions in the way it's resonated with people. There is a beautiful post online from someone who unfortunately went through something very similar to the main character. The main character does have a lot of trauma. And this person went through that, and for that, like that's very sad. And I'm so sad that happened to that person and they had to experience that. What I am grateful for and glad about is that they have this game, they have this art that the team have made that has been cathartic for them and has been a sense of working. It's almost been therapy in a way. And they've said, you know, there's things that they've come out the other side and it's made them kind of feel happy to let some things go. And that's incredible. Like that's when you go, okay, we're not just making a game, we're making some art and we're touching people's lives and we're resonating with them. That's been incredible to witness, honestly. And I'm so happy for Tomek, the game director, Magda and Kasia, the writers, for, you know, like Gabriel and Wukush, or the marketing team who put so much time into sort of, you know, crafting the love that they're putting out there on the internet for the game. For everyone, top to bottom, it's just been a pure labor of love.
One of the things that is amazing is always the story. And I'm curious, like, what was it that drew you in to this game in terms of, did you know about the story fully, or like what became the thing that, okay, this is might be special?
I knew everything about the game from the moment I auditioned, which is a very, very rare thing in video games. Wow. So often we are told nothing. We are told absolutely nothing. And it's not until the very last moment they go, oh, by the way, here's like the general skeleton. In this, they went, here's the skeleton, the meat, the veins, everything. Wow. Because it was immediately apparent that if this was going to work, whichever actor was lucky enough to take on the role of Jan would have to know everything inside out. Because for the first time ever in my life, in my career, the role has felt as much like an actual game mechanic as much as it is a performance. So if this game mechanic doesn't land right, then fundamentally the whole game suffers. So they immediately opened up and told me everything. And even outside of the actual contents that they told me, simply the act of them telling me and giving me everything immediately made me go, oh my God, I want to do this game because I want to work with these people. I want to work with these people who get it and appreciate, and like, we're just like, you want to make some art, we want to make some art, this is how we're going to do it, here we go. And then once I started reading about it and I started going into the moral, philosophical elements of it, the ways in which it would challenge the player, the ways in which it would challenge video game narrative and how we approach narrative in video games, it's everyone wants to take on something unique. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of people in the industry who will look at this and will go, that's cool, we're going to take that, we're going to take that, we're going to take that, we're going to take that. And to work on a project that does that feels special. So right from the get-go, I was like, I've just got to be part of this. I really want to play Jan. And I went and did my final audition for it, which was a 4-hour workshop. Which like for video games, again, like normally you go back and do a recalls most of the time like half an hour max. It was a 4-hour workshop, sat down and figuring out just how we would approach making some of the characters. And I left that. And normally I'm very good at walking away from an audition and going, okay, cool. I'm just going to, if they didn't like what I did, that's fine. It's that was me coming in and going, here's what I think. And if they don't take me, it's not that they don't like me. It's just, that's not the way we saw the character. Fine. I'm usually so good at disassociating and just kind of putting it from my mind, and whatever will be, will be. I left that audition and I thought about it I walked home. I was going to be like, I'll just jump on a bus. You know, the audition was like not far from where I lived. It was about a 45-minute walk from where I lived. So I just went, it's a nice day. And I put on some music. And the song that first came on was Outro by M83. And I walked and I listened to that. And I listened to it again. And I listened to it again. And I kept listening to that song on the way home. And I was just like, oh no. Oh no. I think it's that feeling of when you first realize you've fallen in love with someone. And then your anxiety is, oh no, I love them. Yeah. Oh no, I love them. That's the feeling that I had, honestly. And wow. Yeah, I've been in love with the game ever since.
The one that I really love in terms of bringing a alter is the Miner, because I feel like his reactions and whatever was happening was the most, I don't know, stayed in my mind for the longest. Like for some reason, like, oh, I can understand where he's coming from completely in some ways. And so I actually wanna start by showing that scene, because I really love that scene.
By all means, let's have a look.
What's your name? My name is Jan Dolski, but I'm seeing fucking double. You should worry about that. We'll get there. Just fill me in on your role on this mission. Well, I used to be a miner, but then I lost my hand in an accident. Hey, wait a minute. What the fuck is this? My fucking arm. It's there again. Okay, I'm done with your little survey. Tell me what's going on. What have you done to my body?
So I'm curious about how was the process like to kind of make these distinct characters with their voice specifically?
I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the creation of each of the characters. There's the stuff that you don't see. The stuff that is, well, obviously you don't see because I'm voice acting. But basically, there's the stuff behind the microphone that is happening physically in the booth. So first of all, we start with, here's the sense of the character. Here's what he's about. And then we have to kind of start at Jan. Because normally when you come at a character, you're going, right, cool. Let's just start to find a voice. But in this instance, we go, we have to start with Jan. So we go, what does Jan sound like? Well, Jan sounds like this. He's pretty much just me, but American, right? So Then we're going to go, right, this guy has lived a bit of a tougher life, so maybe he's a bit more, down here. We took artistic liberties. We took stylistic choices. Fundamentally, if you create a clone of someone, you'd be like, well, they would just talk and sound the same, right? But what I really like, someone took this, they ran with it online. The person who has been created is not a direct clone of this person. It is what the quantum computer perceives that person should be. So therefore, that warrants some of the changes because it's not a direct clone. You are fundamentally altering the person, but it's like based on an algorithm, whatever that is in there. So we go, okay, we can take creative liberties. For example, accents. Accents are a very quick shortcut to putting out a sense of someone's personality. You have a Northeast kind of guy, he's going to be a bit more streetwise. That's because that's the perception. You have out on the West Coast, you got that more chilled, laid back sort of thing. So, those are ways of creating a shortcut through to a sense of personality. Then you have nasality, you have gruffness. The scientist, it makes sense if he has a bit more nasality in there. People just associate that with a sense of thinking up here,
Right.
If you're here and you're talking, everything you're doing feels like it's coming more from here. It's body.
Yeah.
And then nasality, it's just simply that everything's happening a bit further up here. It's the mind. So that's ways in which we can shortcut people's perceptions and get right to something. And it's also just fun. I think it's fun. And when you have these characters talking to one another, you really want to get a strong sense of their person. Not only that, but you need it to not be confusing when you have multiple alters talking on screen, or when you have someone dialing in to speak to you. They're calling in on the radio and it's shortcut, and you have the scientist being like, I'm done here. Do you want anything done over there? The nasality immediately sets him apart from the others. But then it comes down to what are the patterns and the rhythms in their speech. The doctor is much more laid back and talks a lot slower. He has that sort of sense. The scientist, he drives all the way through to the end of the sentence, and then he goes on to the next bit. And it's almost like there's a full stop, and then it's this. It's a theory and an equation. That's the way he talks. Then we have the technician who's kind of right down the middle. He drives through to the end of the sentence, but every now and then he does a bit of this. He kind of takes his time. The miner was someone who I did every time I play the miner, I tense my core to a huge degree. So that when he talks, it really sounds like a guy who's constantly in pain, because you're just restricting the oxygen being able to be pushed out. So yeah, there were many, many different ways. It's rhythm and pattern of the speech. It's nasality, gruffness, all those things, head voice, chest voice, accent, a whole combination. But we would essentially just come together, start at the point of Jan and start to branch off here. And then it would be like a river. You find the little forks in the river and eventually you go boom, and then it reaches the sea, and that's where you are.
How much time you and everybody else spent on making sure this character sounds in a particular way or is in a particular way? Is there a character out of these 11 that you think is closest to who you are?
Do you mean in terms of sound or in terms of personality?
I think in terms of both sound, maybe not sound, but maybe more personality.
I mean, sound is going to be base Jan. He's
yeah.
there. He's basically just Native American, as I said. But in terms of personality, I mean, maybe the technician kind of, but he's a bit more he's more he's almost sarcastic. He's more gruff. He's more kind of world weary than I am. So I guess maybe the refiner, actually. I think I've probably got, this is the challenge, right? I have spent over 400 hours in the booth portioning my own personality up into 11 different pieces, 11 different parcels, and delivering 11 different parts of myself. So it's very hard to say which one is most like me. When if you mush all 11 together, you get me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get
That's because it's so often when actors do a role, you go, yeah, I put a bit of myself in this. To do that 11 times for the same person, I basically, let's say there's 11 different parts. If I'm on a circle, on a pie chart, you portion it up, you bring it all together, and then you kind of get me. You kind of get Alex Jordan. So I think it's almost an impossible one to answer for that reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because you have definitely divided into so many parts. Like, makes sense if you all combine them together. It's you, which is love that. That's amazing. Was there a moment during recording any of the lines, any of the scenes, whatever it is, that you thought like, okay, let's do something else than what was written, let's say, on a page? Like, was there something that you had an idea of that you wanted to put in?
I mean, just from a writing perspective, there was a lot of collaboration with Kasia, the lead writer, and Magda. There was a lot of collaboration to begin with. But down to the semantics of each character, I would very often be like, that's not how that character would phrase that. Like the scientist, from this very start, I was like, the scientist is never going to say, yeah. He's going to say, yes, because yes is precise language. It is the word yes. It's not informal. It's not formal, but it is just the word yes, and it has a clear end to it. You are saying yes or no to something, affirmative, negative, yes. Whereas Jan would never say yes, really, or like barely ever say yes. He says yeah, because he's got that. He doesn't have that precise thing. He's muddling through everything, and it's like you can do a lot more going yeah. You can get those moments where you have that thought, or you can go yeah, the precise. It allows for both. And then, for example, the technician would never say, I'm going to do this. He would say, I'm gonna do this. It's a shorthand language that would be more associated with, there's no need to stand on formality. It's language shorthand. It's conveying information as casually and as quickly as possible. So there would be moments where we'd chat, would find the way in which each character would talk. Things like the shrink who is very therapeutically analytical, not analytical in a scientific level, but on an emotional level. So the way in which he would talk would often ignore punctuation, because for him, conversation is a winding river, to use another river analogy. Yeah. It's a winding river, and it's just seeking until we find that source. So as you would talk, it would flow through like this, and there would never really be any punctuation, and the next thing would flow into the next bit and the next, until finally we arrived at the point. That would be the way in which he would work with grammar and punctuation. Right. So there was plenty of moments in which we would collaborate together to find the way in which they interacted with language, each individual one.
One of the things, the moment that I was not expecting, and ever since I've seen this game in 2023, did a beautiful music number there, and I was like, I don't know any game can have it, but if it is there, it's great. And then I saw this, obviously this is a spoiler, but I saw this music number thing when they're discussing like, yeah, we're gonna make a song. I was like, sure, I guess we're not gonna see, but then we see it, and I was like, this is so good. I have done it in another way as well, with a little bit of change of the lyrics, but it was still like, this is so great. And I just wanna show that song, because I love that song.
Oh yeah,
I've heard it like 3 times.
I'll happily watch this song over and over. It's such a cool idea.
If I could take another turn, my life would never be the same. If I could get another chance today, if I could take us somewhere now, let us win this race against the sun and find a place where we could hide tonight.
It's amazing.
First of all, the fact that I've never heard that variation. I've never heard that specific variation, right? Because this is one of the other incredible things. Not only does this game just do amazing things narratively in terms of branching and the differences that everyone can have in their playthrough, you had a totally different song there. There are 88 variations of the song depending on the alters that you have and the lyrics that you choose. That in itself is such an awesome achievement. For Kasia, Magda, for Piotr Musial, who does the music, for them to have brought that together. And then, I mean, it's super cool and impressive.
Wow. Yeah, I cannot believe there's so many versions. 88. That's insane. Like, to do all of this, and you have no idea which one it's going to be. And I don't think so. Like, you will know like how it actually is going to be like when it's like the final product. Did you had any idea that did you get to see a version of it?
I mean, no, not really. I mean, first of all, to begin with, we were about a year in to the project before they said, okay, and now we're going to do the song. And I went, we're going to do the song? And they went, yeah, the song. And I said, okay, cool, the song. Okay.
That was in the contract.
Just like, yeah. I was like, so what, it's just going to be Jan singing or like, and then they explained it to me. And first of all, I went, oh, cool. And then I went, oh, cool. Hold on. I'm going to have to figure out how all 11 of them sing. And they were like, yeah, basically. I mean, so when you voice act, you figure out the voice. Then the things that you most commonly do, umming and ahhing, you kind of, as you go, you figure out, oh, this is how they kind of stutter and stammer in the way that they talk. This is how they and they are. And then every now and then you have a character where you really need to laugh or something happens and you're like, okay, well, now I guess I need to kind of find what their laugh is to make it sound like a believable laugh in their voice. To then have that and be like, okay, now find out what they sound like when they sing. That was a big old challenge. That was a big old challenge. I really, really enjoyed it. I think one of the most interesting things about it was that different alters, based on their life path, based on how much interaction they'd had with singing, would have varying degrees of either competency or confidence. So the biggest challenge of all was not for me, but was for Piotr Musial, the composer, because he is such a musically gifted person that he had to really fight his struggle against listening to his lyrics sometimes be performed in a bad way. When you're a composer and you're like, yeah, you craft something, you make it want to sound good, for someone to come along and go, cool, it's the refiner. He's really bad at singing. I'm now going to take your work and I'm going to do it badly. So for him, as someone who is so used to being in control of making it good, he had the biggest challenge of all, I think, which was that.
Oof. Oh my God. Yeah, I cannot imagine how it must be for him and how it must be for you, like, because there's so much to do and so much to even think about. Because when I think about just 11 characters singing in different ways, I'm like, I don't know how to even think about that. But obviously you went through it and you did so well. I just love the end part of that song. It's so energetic. I'm like, this is great. Mm-hmm. I'm feeling that energy. This is wonderful. I love it. I
love the moment that it transitions into the sort of, it leaves behind a sense of reality. And it steps into something a little bit fantastical in a way that feels kind of transcendent for the alters in that moment. It's a moment they cross a threshold together. And it's the moment I've seen online. I love people's reactions to this because, again, it's a bold thing to put a whole musical sequence in a game. I've loved seeing people's reactions like to that moment. I haven't really seen a negative reaction to that moment. And a lot of people saying for them, they were like, this was the moment that I went, oh no. I really care about each of these alters now, and I want them to be okay. Like, even if they're going to be angry, like, I want them to be okay. And so suddenly you're really spinning those plates, trying to keep everyone okay and happy, because that really seals it.
We were talking about earlier about how you think about yourself a little bit when you're playing this game. And I did that as well when I was thinking, like, I think all about work, because I think there was a dialogue somewhere where somebody was saying, oh, all you do is like work or more work or something like that. I think
the miner. This is with the miner. Yeah. The miner's whole thing is that he doesn't feel like he has a purpose or he is bringing anything to the table unless he is working and providing value in that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing. Like, oh my God, I'm doing the exact same, which is I'm doing right now. Like, work is my thought all the time. Like, you have spent the most time with these characters. Is there something that you learned about yourself while you're working on this game?
every day on this was like being paid to do therapy. I worked through I've had, while I've been doing this game, it has been an undercurrent for the last couple of years of my life, going through some real high highs, but also some real low lows, and some trauma and some family grief and things like that. To go into a booth and get to explore almost every facet of the human condition and the idea of regret and what if and hoping and believing, that if things were different, maybe they'd be better, but then realizing that at the end of the day, what is better? It's all subjective and you never know. I've definitely learned stuff about myself in the process, but I think I've learned stuff in a way that feels kind of not vague, but it feels unquantifiable. I'm fundamentally changed on the other side of this, I think, in a positive way, which is what I hope people will get from the game. I hope that they will come away feeling like a bit of them has been changed. Yeah, it's very tough to pin down exactly. Yeah, I also think that one thing I can say that I've learned about myself is that on the day that I got the job, I was delighted and I celebrated. And then I woke up the next morning and I felt a sense of dread, because it's a cool thing to get it. And then it's another thing to do it, and do it in a way that satisfies the people who have put so much time and effort into this game already, and the people who will play the game. People are going to pay to play the game. And to the people who also auditioned but didn't end up getting the role. So I then have this feeling of, oh my God, okay, this is a lot of pressure. But now I think I've come out the other side. I've also just accepted a role which is going to be like, I can't talk about it, but I'm going to have millions of people scrutinizing every single sound that I make. The thing that this job has given me is that I have stepped into that new role and I walk into it going, I feel the weight, but I don't feel the pressure. I know I can handle this. I've done this. I can handle this. I know the weight of what I'm taking on, but I don't feel the pressure of it. I think that's something I've learned from this.
And Natural Six and the Alters collaboration. I was watching it. It was so cool to get to be in the hot seat and get to run this campaign. How was it like for you? Because I could see that you were so excited in the first few minutes when everybody's like, and your face is like, it's like, it was so cool to see the excitement that you had.
That was really cool. It was my first time ever GMing anything. And I suddenly stepped in and was like, I'm GMing for the first time on camera and with a TTRPG system that I have made. I am being judged now on my GMing ability, but also on how good the mechanics of the game is. So there was a definite sense of nervousness. I was really, really nervous at the beginning, but I really wanted to make a game where the mechanics were cool and they worked and they were enjoyable and exciting, but they provided a platform for the role playing to allow everyone to do their role playing. And there was about 45 minutes to an hour where I didn't talk for about 5 to 10 minutes and everyone's just role playing between themselves. And in that moment, I sat back and I went, oh, okay, breathe. This is cool. This is working. This is enjoyable. They're having fun. If the players at the table are having fun, the audience is having fun. It's great. So I had that moment, and that's when I finally was like, I can breathe into this now. And then I really, really enjoyed the remainder of the session. It was so much fun to be able to GM in the way that I have grown to enjoy other people's GMing and taking bits from certain people and going, you know what, that's cool, but that's not so much me. And like, I really like to favor the role play. And then I'd like to, as a GM, go, you know what? I had this set in place. This was going to be the rule here. But now that we're here, what you've just been doing for the past 2 hours, I actually think it's much more enjoyable if we change this thing and we pivot. And the way you're going to do this is now this. And if it leans into what they've been doing for the past 2 hours and they're happy with it, then great.
Yeah.
Because then again, you're constantly working in collaboration with the people around the table rather than dictating to them, here's what you're going to do. That's the kind of style of GMing that I really enjoy. And that's what I felt I started to explore and get to work with at the table.
I was looking at the games that you have worked on over the years. It's so many. A decade plus games that you've worked on, so many games, and it's so interesting to see that your first ever game was from what big franchise that you became a part of it as your first game, Game of Thrones. And you did the audition, and you're playing Asher, but you did the audition not for Asher, but for someone else.
Yeah, I initially was asked to audition to do a Tyrion Lannister impression, or sound, let's say sound alike, I think is the key thing. Because doing an impression is one thing, trying to do a thing where you go, okay, now I'm going to inhabit the role in a way in which people would believably go, that's the actor. And I got the feedback and they were like, yeah, we really like it. We're shortlisting. We're just going to we're looking at things. We'd love to kind of pencil your availability. So I was thinking, how cool is this?
Yeah.
I might play Tyrion in this game. And then I found out that I had not got the role. It had gone to another actor. I was like, oh man, that sucks. But cool. Okay. It is what it is. And then I was offered to audition for Asher. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is great. This is a really cool character. And I feel like I can definitely inhabit this in a way that I could do something cool here. I could have some fun. And I got the role. I had a pretty traumatic audition because I just before going in had found out that one of my dear friends had been run over by a rubbish truck, by a garbage truck, and was in hospital, and basically from the legs down was going to have total restructuring surgery with metal, and that just happened. And I literally went in and I did the audition. I was like, I'm so sorry, my brain is scrambled. And then they asked, what, are you okay? What's going on? I explained, and I was like crying in the booth. I was like, I've got to go. And I left thinking, oh, I've completely screwed this. Like this has gone down the drain. And then I got the call to say they loved me and they wanted me to play the role. And then I found out that I didn't get the Tyrion role because the role had gone to Peter Dinklage. And I thought, if I'm going to lose out on the role of HBO's interpretation of the Game of Thrones universe, if I'm going to lose out on the role of Tyrion to anyone, Peter Dinklage is probably the right person to lose out to the role.
So, yeah. Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I had no idea about, and that's such a tough thing to also go through, because how can you even think about doing the audition? That's insane. But the fact that you got the role and you're in the game, and it's so fun to see that the Game of Thrones, like you mentioned, we get to see all the original characters coming in, voicing their roles and their parts. And I think, and even Asher's story is so wonderful and so cool. And I was not expecting him to meet Daenerys. So did you ever think that your character Asher would be meeting that character?
I mean, it was, they made it clear pretty early on that it was like, yeah, and you're going to have your characters over here in Essos, and that's obviously where Daenerys is in that moment in time. So there's going to be moments. I was like, brilliant. This is so cool. I'm going to get to meet Khaleesi. And then I did get to meet Emilia, who was absolutely lovely, and it was sort of one of those moments where it's right at the height of the Game of Thrones, hype, and I sort of walk in and I'm like, oh my god, okay, it's Emilia Clarke, and she's wonderful and lovely, and she's everything that you would hope Emilia Clarke to be, such a genuinely lovely, warm person. And I came away from that interaction going, I should it's not about because no one should ever feel like they're trying to satisfy or please a person who enjoys the work. It's but I came away going, I feel satisfied with the interaction that I've just had. Yeah, she's wonderful and lovely.
Wow, this is your first game, by the way. It's amazing.
First game.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild, pretty cool one. I was familiar with The Walking Dead that they'd done and stuff, and it was really, really, really cool to get to work with them. And then I also just got to from the very beginning, a lot of the time, as I say, with video games, you can be held at arm's length as an actor, and you can kind of be like pushed over here and feel like you're not part of it. I have always wanted to be friends with the people that I'm working with, or as in like not a need to be liked or loved, but in a way where I go, we're working together. I don't want this to feel like I'm just coming in and I'm in your orbit and then I'm slung out of your orbit and I'm over there. So I befriended them, and they were lovely, wonderful people, talented people. And when I was over in San Francisco, we went out drinking, and I'd head over there and I'd catch up with them, and they showed me around the office in San Francisco, and we went out to bars, food, we did escape rooms, all this stuff. But we did this sort of once the game was done, and it was just as friends. I've always wanted to be an actor who would step into that world, because I want the relationship between actor and studios to change for the better of everyone, in a way that actors can provide something to your video game that AI won't be able to. And that is engaging with a community and fostering a community. And a lot of the time, as your podcast is a perfect example, people want to hear about the process, and they want to know the human elements that went into it and made it. And I've always wanted to push that forward and, work with devs in a way that wasn't necessarily just my time in the booth, and show them that I have an inherent value beyond my time in the booth, and that there's that I can bring something to this beyond that time in the booth. So yeah, from the very get-go, my very first job, I made friends with the devs, and they're wonderful people. They're lovely.
I want to show you one of the scenes from Game of Thrones, because I like that scene, and I'm always curious about, okay, how do you do that without killing yourself? And this is a scene which is where you are, I think, not shouting, but like you raised your voice in a higher tone, and you're trying to recruit an army.
You're murderous scum! And murderous scum is just what I need! You deserve better than this! You deserve more than to die for someone else's entertainment! Fight with me, and you will have glory and gold! If you've got the balls to follow me, we will set sail at dawn. And to those too craven to join me, to hell with you!
I remember it so well, honestly. Like it's a wild one for that to have been my first job. I recorded that probably in 2013. Like we would have been working on that. The game came out Christmas of 2014, and we were probably working on it from about the end of 2013. And for a game like that, for it to just still be in my head, like, is a testament to how much that character in that game meant to me and what I feel like I owe to that game. I have a tattoo of Mr. Hand's hands on my ribs, because that felt like a real cool moment in my career. I was a huge fan of that game before I was cast in the DLC. That I really want to get a tattoo for the altars, and I'm thinking about it. I really want to get a tattoo for Asher as well, because that's kind of where it all began. So yeah.
But no, I love that scene. It's such a fun one, and you're not really screaming per se or like shouting but it's like you're trying to convince all these people, like, yes, join me. This is what's gonna happen. If you don't join me, you're basically saying fuck you. Like, and just like there's so much there that I'm like, okay, how do you even go by doing that in a booth without destroying your throat?
Yeah, that one. To be honest, like, I think, there was maybe a little bit of rest that came after, but it wasn't too bad on my throat. It is kind of shouting. It's kind of gruff, but it's still sort of a bit sort of naturally where I sit. I have had moments in the past, though, where I have had I have blown my voice to shreds. I did Dying Light 2. And I played all the guys who are, real crazy. So that, right? But we did 4-hour sessions of that. And I remember coming out of the booth and sending a message to my voice agent being like, I'm done. I can't do. And we would have to cancel sessions for the next 2 days. There's now way more protection in place, because that was around the time where we really started to see protections come into place for actors and for their voices when doing these sessions. And we're like, these sessions can be 1 hour, 2 hours tops. because otherwise the actor starts losing out on work the next 2 days. They have to cancel things or reorganize things. And if they cancel something or reorganize, the client goes, well, we need it tomorrow, so we're gonna have to find another actor. So there have been times where I have like blown out my voice and I've lost work as a result. That one wasn't too bad. That one was fine. And also it was right at the beginning of my career and I was kind of working, but I wasn't working. Now I'm like in the booth every day. And I'm very, very fortunate for that. So yeah, I'm now much more aware of those moments where I might be about to damage my voice, and I will make it clear. I'm doing a cartoon at the moment, starting that process, and it's really like I'm pushing out this bit of my throat. And we did 4 hours, and I just basically had to say, look, I'm happy to do 2 hours. And then if you want to take a break, I can do like other softer like jobs in between. And then we can come back at the end of the day. We can do another 2 hours at the end of the day. I just need that break. So I think I've got a lot better at being able to kind of.
But you're mentioning about Cyberpunk earlier, and it's amazing kind of segue to get into Cyberpunk, because Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is where you became Mr. Hands, and in the base game, obviously Mr. Hands was played by someone else, and now you get to play Mr. Hands. You have this role, and I think you found out that you got the role when you were playing Cyberpunk at the same time.
I mean, yeah, like I got a message as I was playing to say that I got the role, which is wild. To be playing the game that you're about to be in was very, very cool. It's a hugely special part for me. It felt like I've been very, very fortunate. I think I've done now, not all my credits are online. I think I'm about 90 games, and I'm very, very lucky. But that one felt like a turning point in my career where I was like, okay, I'm stepping into like doing these roles in maybe some projects, and it felt like a turning point. I love the guys at CD Projekt Red. They are fantastic. They're such a great group of people. Again, really just care about the art of video game making. The role, as you can see, like, I mean, I have, first of all, the printout of Mr. Hands here. But then this is, there's an amazing cosplayer called Valkyrie Wyvern, who made me these hands, these Mr. Hands hands. And I may have something cool coming up in collaboration with CDPR involving some stuff and these hands right here. Yeah, I mean, he's such an interesting and cool character, right? Because I feel like they really elevated what the fixers could be with Mr. Hands. They went, okay, not only are we going to give you, and they could do it because they could do it in a way that was not as possible in the main game, because the DLC launches and they go, this is a pocket world inside the existing world. So therefore, the fixer of Mr. Hands can very clearly have a more defined role, but also a playground in which to be. So Mr. Hands, his gigs feel really morally challenging. They have a lot of weight to them. They will make you think, they'll make you question, they will make you take a beat before you make a decision. But then also his role within the world at large, it felt as though they had taken a fixer to a point of going, okay, in the base game, the fixers are amazing and cool, but they have their little pocket and they go, that's where I stay, that's where I stay, that's where I stay. We got this character who it felt like had grand designs on something larger. And that feels really, really cool, because you finish Phantom Liberty going, oh, Mr. Hands, who I started out going, yeah, you're the guy who does the sort of criminal activity in this area. You leave going, oh, you could be a problem. You could be a problem in the future. You have that sense of he's smart. He knows how to make things work for him. And that's dangerous in a place like Night City.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the fact that there was a little bit of a change. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then you get to know more about him. Surprisingly, I was like, I'm not gonna, because in the base game you didn't, but in this DLC you got to get to know more, because you even meet him in person, and he talks to his daughter, I think, and like our family. Yep. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because he's talking differently there. And then he comes back, like he talks in a very smart way, I suppose. So I love that meeting scene as well. It's a brilliant way to know about a bit of him that we never see. And yeah, it's just great.
The interesting thing with that was he, in the way that he talks, is most like in when it comes to sound, the Shrink. He's the most like the shrink in terms of the sound, but in the way that he talks, the rhythm and the pattern, he's much more like the scientist. So he is this. He provides something. He offers it up here. And then there's the other side. He's methodical. He goes, here's one thing, here's the other thing, and here's how they both come together, and here's what I want you to do. It's a constant balancing thing with him. He's precise, he's analytical, he's always thinking through. So that's one thing we really wanted to do in the booth when we were coming up with his voice. But it also meant that there was something slightly, like, not robotic about him, but something that was slightly too processing, that it feels a little bit unnerving. Like, it feels like he's cool and he's charming and he's very nice and he'll be very kind to you and stuff. But then you'll go and do a mission where, you know, you've got kids having implants, and he seems to be totally fine with allowing that to happen in a way that makes you go, hold on. Now all this, and this is too cold and calculating. This is too like I may be seeing a little bit behind what might be a mask of pleasantry. Like, that's cool. That's so cool to play.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You get to know immediately, like, oh shit, this, we don't see it, but it's there. Oh gosh. Yep. Yeah. That becomes scary.
There's only one way a person can thrive in Night City. You can't thrive as a outright good person in Night City.
True. Yeah, that's true. It's so cool to see you being part of that game, because I never expected Mr. Hands to have so much layers to it in Phantom Liberty. I was like, wow, I am scared of him. Like, it's this, you get terrified. And I love that. I love that part, and I loved what you did with the character. And he looks even great. And I was like, I can never have that slick hair and beard. That's not gonna happen. Do
you want to know what's ridiculous? Is that he looks a lot like my dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean a lot. It's weird. It's scary how much he looks like my dad.
So you can, I guess I heard that he looks a lot more like your dad, but if you can bring a wig, I think your dad does not have hair, or he's like bald.
My dad my dad has a shaved head. He has big long beard that actually he does have the sort of the mustache of, you think like sailor kind of beard in the traditional, not scruff way, but the kind of like painting of a sailor who has the tash like done at the end. Yeah, that kind of thing. He's got that sort of beard.
So yeah, if you bring that wig for him, just to see, it's going to be, I guess it's going to be the same as Mr. Hands then.
I'm not gonna lie, I've already spoken to him. At some point when he has a beard, I've already said I'm gonna bring the hands down, and he was like, yeah, I'll wear the hands. Like, let's get a photo of me wearing the hands. So we're gonna make that happen. He's gonna put on a suit and we'll have him with the beard and the hands. Yeah.
Yeah. People will say that's real Mr. Hands. He finally met him. Like, yep. That would be so cool. I want to talk about another game that came out last year, and it's been a year. The community has been very strong, continues to go strong. That's Wuthering Waves. And Jiyan is the character you play. How wild it is for you to be a part of a gacha game community, I guess, where people are just absolutely on a different level. I feel like those games are in a completely different tangent when it comes to video game communities.
100%. The communities are huge. If we're going to do this, if we're going to talk about Wuthering Waves, bear with me a second.
Okay.
If we're going to talk about Daddy General Jiyan. Wait for it. Boom. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking about Daddy General Jiyan. So let's get the right color vibe going. Let's get the right color scheme going.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, I knew about like the gacha communities and sort of the love that they have for the games and for the characters and stuff. My goodness, I didn't realize the love they have. The fan art. Oof. I learned pretty early on to be very careful where I put in, whenever I was looking for like Jiyan stuff on Twitter or whatever. I learned very early on, don't do that in public.
Nope.
Do not do that on the bus. Some of that fan art is graphic.
It is.
Visceral graphic art.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I like, we started calling him on stream. People started going, like calling him daddy and stuff online. And so I started calling him like Daddy General. And then we started leaning into it. And like, it's a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun with the community. I enjoy it. It's one of those things where I would love to also keep spending more time having fun with that community, but I've constantly got different things going on. So I'm kind of trying to juggle my time between different communities, and I have ADD as well. So I will get like into a little bubble and I will focus on one thing for a while. And then I'll go, oh, I haven't spoken to the Wuthering Waves community in a while. And I'll try and go back to that, you know, and interact with them, because I love it. I love interacting with the communities.
Yeah.
It's such a joyous part of the job, because I am the communities. Like, I'm a gamer. I have always been a gamer. I have always loved video games, playing them, like looking up every part that I could find about the process of making them. You know, I remember the first moment I was like, oh my God, video games, like voice acting in video games. And that being Dawn of War from Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. Like going and having, you know, these Gabriel Angelos and sort of all these amazing voices there, and going, I would love to like get to do this stuff. So to be able to interact with the community when you're part of communities is really, really cool.
Yeah. That, I have to say, like you mentioned about, like, I think one of the things that anybody who joins Wuthering Waves, the first thing I think anybody could give an advice of is like, do not search your character name after maybe a week that has gone by. Maybe, I don't know.
Yep.
Don't on Instagram or on Twitter or anywhere else. It's very hard to
Twitter is real bad for it. Twitter is like anything seems to go there right now. It's lawless when it comes to the art that's creeping through.
Yeah, I was like, I do not know. And then I was watching some of the scenes where one of the scenes is when you meet Jiyan for the very first time. And I was just watching that scene earlier today, and I was like going through comments, like, let's see what people have. And I do not understand, like, oh, just can we make them kiss? Can we make them do that? So I'm like, how do you, like, there's not really much happening in that way, but I would think that, but there's the community is just, it's like, how would you? It's there.
It's there. In the people's minds, it's there. It may not be there on screen, but it's there in their imagination.
Wild.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what's really interesting as well is that it was a really weird experience for me, because with gacha games, that's a world in which I had never really had any experience. I'd never really played gacha games. So the idea of banners and pulling for characters, and I understand the draw and everything, but it was so alien to me. And when I first started playing the game and I was playing it on stream, trying to get to understand, okay, right, so that means that. And then you have X amount of pity, and what's pity, and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it was like learning a whole new language. Like, it blew my mind. Honestly, it blew my mind how much I had to learn in such a short space of time on stream in order to be able to really interact with the community in the way that I wanted to.
Yes, it's a lot in that game. I have to say, it's a whole different thing. And it's like, if anybody plays, I don't know, probably the wrong kind of example. If anybody plays like Dark Souls for the very first time, you have to learn, understand a lot. So I feel like Wuthering Waves is in a completely different level. But there's a scene in Wuthering Waves, and this is, I guess, spoiler territory if anybody has not played his quest, a story, whole thing. But it's kind of the end of that part. And I love the cutscene.
Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing as last time.
Okay.
And see if I can guess. Is it the flowers?
Is
it standing
before,
on top? Or
no,
is it before?
it's actually before. It's the fight. I'm going to say that. It's just a fight, the last fight that happens.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
It's right after. I just love that scene because it's cinematically, and I love presentation of characters and scenes. And the presentation-wise, I just loved what was happening. And you see more of a story without a single dialogue. Okay. So I just want to show that because it's a fun scene, in my opinion.
They've been trapped here for 10 years, and now finally free. I hope they're in a better place. What happened here goes far beyond what we know about the wave-worn phenomena so far. I've sampled some of the frequencies here with my terminal. We should deliver the sample to the Academy.
I think there's something in that scene that I feel like when the way the cinematically is presented, I feel like you see how you learn a lot more about what's happening with him in some ways and how he's accepting, I guess.
Yeah. The beautiful the scenes that they create in there are visually beautiful, and they really tell a story. Okay, so do you know what's interesting is that I was having a conversation that kind of links into this in a way just the other day. Director of a game that I'm working on, he was over in the UK, so we went out for some drinks, and we were talking about different mediums for different cultures, and kind of what do we perceive as being, that's how I perceive that culture's emotional sort of the way they convey emotion. So like when I think of the UK, I think traditionally of the stage, right? I think of theater. When I think of France, I think of a lot of like paintings, sort of all, sort of beautiful paintings. And then Italy, it's a lot of sort of sculpture work. And then in sort of Japan and China, I know that's a hugely vast, like China's a huge country, it's like the size of a continent, but specifically in certain areas and regions, it's a lot of a combination of painting and theater. It's a lot of, puppetry. It's a lot of that sort of stuff, right? So what I think these visuals are is an extension of that cultural identity of puppetry and visuals through motion telling a story. So what they're very, very good at is getting right to the heart of an emotional point of a story, using figures in an artistic way and using motion. So like that scene, where we cross over and we see the kind of the ghost of his fallen comrade go behind and beyond, and that feels like it could almost come from a beautiful bit of puppetry. So it's so interesting to see how they just, like, those companies that make these games like really excel in a lot of this stuff, and how it links into that, and yeah.
It's true. Like even the trailer of this is the characters showcase trailers are just so fun to just watch, because there's like I said, movements, and it just always has those big vibes of things that are happening, camera movements and stuff that okay, this is how you understand without a single dialogue. I think you understand more about the character a little bit, and it seems like you understand more emotional connection with the characters. And I love how you sound as, like, your sound as Jiyan is, I think, one of my favorites. Like the way it sounds, I'm like, I can listen to the sound, him speak all day. Is that something, do people like kind of ask you at times from the community, like, can you say this specific line? And
yeah, I get asked that a lot. I think the thing with him is that because he is this young general, he is this calming presence and commanding presence, his voice has to have that. It has to be smooth and calm and reasonable, and therefore, it's soft, but you don't mess with him. And it's, what's interesting is that in order to convey the character properly, I often have to maybe strip back some of the performance, which feels both intuitive and counterintuitive at the same time. Because a lot of the time when you're trying to give a natural performance, you want to just try not to make it too melodramatic. But sometimes you're like, I got to give a little something. But with this guy, the way in which his whole character works is, if you really feel like he's just not being ruffled, he's really not being thrown off. He's just calm, he's collected, and he's going to guide you and lead the way. So I think a lot of people like that as well, because it's a calming presence, it's a calming voice, I guess.
When you announced it, like, and this is the game came out this year in March. It's Split Fiction, and you play a cat. Which is, I play the Ice King. Yes. The Ice King. Yes.
I'm gonna switch back just because I like the vibe. I'm gonna switch back to the altars because I'm vibing with the pink. There we go.
Yes. The cats. sorry, the Ice
The
King.
Ice King, darling, the Ice King. Come on now, he's more than just a little cat. He's a king of a whole kingdom. The Ice King was so much fun. When I was in the booth, was having so much fun with it that the devs were having so much fun with it that when we were recording, they were heading off to their Christmas party, and they asked me in the booth to record a message for the whole party that was going to be played. And it was like, darlings, let your hair down, have some fun, sort of get out the claws, all that stuff.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun to record. It's really nice to get to play like these characters who are, down here. Or you got Usher, he's fight, and he's got that sort of tempest in him. And to have these characters who are calm and play this, to then get to just go, you know what? Do the whole melodramatic thing, do the whole camp thing, really just lean into it, and it's one of those ones where as I do it, my mouth is just going all over. It's fun to do that. Also, I find it amazing. There was so many people around the time of the game coming out. There was like clips going, "Is this Neil Newbon?"
Yes,
it was
I know.
No, it's just camp and British. It's just camp and British in that moment. And Astarion has that beautiful campness to him. And it's just that. That's the similarity, basically. That was where the similarities ended. But people were like, I think that might be Neil.
Yeah, a lot of people. I saw like only if you know, like that's not Neil, but it was so cool to see because you have that similarity in terms of how its delivery is probably happening. And so yeah, that's why people were, oh, I guess we can hear a darling there. So yeah, I just love that. I did not expect him, the cat, to start speaking and pet me or die, human.
Pet me or die. And then reiterating it, pet me or die. Like being able to play with that register, sort of dancing around up here, and then it just makes it so much more enjoyable when you go down here. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's like kind of like bringing that, and not softening, but like inviting you, I guess, in some ways with with that tone, and then going dark and be switching like, oh gosh, did not expect. So yeah, it's a very fun thing, and I loved everything about it. I just want to say, Alex, thank you so much, man, for giving me this time today, talking all about this. This has been really fun. Yeah,
honestly, the pleasure has been entirely mine. I love watching your videos, and so it was an absolute must. I think we had talked a couple of times about like, oh, maybe come on and do some stuff, and I was always like, it feels like it makes sense to wait for this game to come out because it's such a unique thing that we've done. And I was like, yeah, so for as soon as it was out, I was like, right, we have to do this interview now. Let's do this interview. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I really appreciate you, taking the time and sitting down and chatting because, it's a lot of fun to be able to talk about the process and to be able to talk about the process with someone who clearly sort of cares for it. So, yeah.